Okay, so object oriented concept in C#. Object oriented concepts in C#. In fact, in basic, there are a lot of things we have to cover, like conditions, loops, arrays, etc. Since this programming language is object oriented, we will be learning all those basic things also inside object oriented structure. For example, suppose you want to learn arrays. So there will be a function inside the class which will cover array, two-dimensional array, how to use nested loop, how to use condition, how to use call by value, how to use call by reference, everything inside the class only. That is the best way of developing. That's why, no doubt, we will be learning basic things also. We are not ignoring basic things, but those basic things also will be learned inside object-oriented concept. That's why first thing we will learn what are all minimum things to be known about object-oriented programming. Inside that object-oriented structure, we will learn basic things like call by reference, call by value, as I said. Then we will jump to advanced object-oriented programming. There we will see various features like abstraction, generic collection, and so on and so forth. Right? This will be the sequence of learning. So first, structure of object-oriented programming, skeletal structure. Inside that skeletal structure, basic concepts, operators, arrays, loops, nested loops, etc. Right? So what is object-oriented concept first of all? Few things we already know. Class, namespace, these things we already know, right? Namespace is nothing but logical work area. Namespace, that means boundary inside which you are keeping 2 classes, 3 classes, 5 classes, whatever you need. And all those classes might be interrelated to each other, right? For example, your bonus class and your basic salary class and your house rent allowance class, all 3 will be interrelated to get the total salary. That's why all those 3 classes will be kept inside namespace called payroll. This way we have to categorize it and structure it. So as per our program, last class we did, my class name is my class and my namespace is C#_intro, because these are all just demo purpose. I mean, we can say not real-time project. That's why we are giving anything like XYZ. But when we will go for real-time project, imagine this namespace name is payroll system. Your class name may be basic salary, maybe bonus calculation, maybe allowances, maybe house rent allowance, income tax. So all those classes will be inside this module called payroll system. Attendance also might be there as a class, because based on attendance only you calculate salary. That is called skeletal structure. Inside the skeletal structure, when you come inside the class, there are something called elements of the class. So as of now we learn only 2 elements, but couple of more elements are there we are going to learn today. So elements of a class. Elements of a class. That means inside a class, what are all things usually we keep? So first thing is variable. What is variable? Reserved memory space. Reserved memory space. That is called variable. Like for example, I reserved a memory named as company name, and just now I stored ABC Limited. If I want to ask user to enter, I can do that. So today we will see also that if I don't want to give directly ABC Limited, I want to ask user to enter, there is something called constructor, okay, where I can write some coding to ask user to enter the data. But here you cannot write those coding. Please enter the name or please enter the company name. In the class level you cannot write. It should be always written either in the constructor level or in the function level. But as of now, since we don't know constructor, so directly I provided in the line number 11 itself, right? For example, suppose I will say, hey, my employee ID, which is integer, if I'll give 1003, don't you think for everybody it will be 1003? But we don't want that. We don't want to hard code 1003. I run the program, for me also 1003. You run the program, for you also 1003. So this is not the best practice for giving data for employee ID. Why? Because for everybody it may be different. ABC limited I can give it because for everybody it is ABC limited. But employee ID, salary, name of the person, his email ID, his mobile number, those are maybe different. If you are keeping those kind of variable, what is the best practice to assign or to accept from the user? That we'll see today through something called constructor. Right? So let's understand what is constructor also. So variable you already understood. Now there is something called constructor. Variable always reserves the memory based on some data type. If you see here line number 11, you said that, hey, my data type is string. String means alphanumeric value, any character you can enter, ABCD 1 2 3 4 anything. But integer means only numeric. Like I'm entering 2003, absolutely fine. But if I will say ABCD, it will say no, you cannot enter ABCD because these are all alphabets. So 125 mostly welcome. But demerit. What demerit? Now directly giving in line number 12, it says for everybody in future it will be employee ID 125. But that is not what we want. That's why you should learn something called constructor. So inside constructor, I will give the value for employee ID. However, for company name, directly I can give the value because this is common for everybody. So here you go and say constructor. Constructor will start with public because it has to be accessed outside as well. Then say my class, open bracket, close bracket, and curly bracket, open and close. Inside that I can say console dot writeline. Please enter your employee ID, something like that. Please enter your employee ID. Then I will say employee ID equal to, usual command is, guys, console dot read key. Read key, read line, these are all for reading something. So this time, just not a single key, just not A or B or 1 or 7. It is like 2, 3 digit, maybe 10 digit, maybe 5 digit, maybe. So read line. Line means full line, not a single character. Read line, open bracket, close bracket, semicolon. But here one catch. Read line, whatever you type on the screen, like he said, please enter your employee ID. You enter 579, for example. So when you enter 579, that time what it will do, whatever you enter, it will consider like string, as if it is in double quote. As if it is in double quote. Always technology considers everything as a string only when you type on the screen. So now tell me, right side string means double quote 579, left side purely integer. So don't you think this right side should be converted to integer? That means somebody has to remove that double quote. By default it is considering double quote. I don't want double quote, I want to remove that. That is called typecasting. Okay, that process is called typecasting. So how to typecast? Just like this, convert. Okay, that means you are converting from string to integer. So you have to write to integer. In integer, there are 3 memory allocation. Short integer 16-bit, integer 32-bit, long integer 64-bit. There are 3 data types on integer itself. Short int, long int. Okay, so now currently only int we have taken. Only int means 32-bit. Short integer means 16-bit. Long integer means 64-bit. So I'll say, hey, convert to 32-bit integer. Imagine somebody will say, no, convert to 64-bit integer. Then what will happen? It will say, array, you are converting to 64-bit, but left side you have integer only, which is taking 32-bit only. So if you want so, like 8 digit, 10 digit, 12 digits, like that bigger number you want to store, then go for long, long. Then it's okay. Because long stores 64-bit, int stores 32-bit. So by chance you are taking int, make sure you are converting to integer of 32-bit. Make sense? Now I asked user entered some 579 or something, and that I converted to integer purely, because by default it will be reading as string, and then employee ID will be purely getting that value. Acha, question arises, sir, can I do these 2 lines here? Why should I use constructor if I will use here directly? It will say no. In class level, you cannot write any coding. Only declaration is allowed, or direct value is allowed, like this, line number 11. But if you ask user to enter, no, not at all possible. This is possible inside constructor or possible inside function. But directly, it is not allowed, because that place is not for that purpose. So constructor. What is constructor now? If I will tell you to define your language, in your language, because remember, no need to exactly remember the bookish language in technology. As I said, it is not CBSE curriculum, it is technology. Technology means first to understand. That is more important. Then you prepare your own definition in your own language, no problem. It doesn't mean that Telugu, in English only you have to say, but your own English, right? So how? Let's define it. Constructor is like a function used for initializing data to data members. Data members means our variables. So initialize data members, okay, when object will be created. Now you will ask me, sir, what is this object will be created? How to justify this highlighted part? Okay, it is saying it will initialize the data only when the object will be created. Let's try that part. I'll put a breakpoint here, line number 14. I will try to know, is it really true what we are writing here? When object only created, then only it will initialize this data. Let me put a breakpoint here to understand it. So here I'll put a breakpoint, line number 5, because in line number 5 only we are creating the object, and there also I'll put a breakpoint to understand, is it really this sentence is correct? This initialization of the data will happen only when object will be created. Let's see. Both the places I put the breakpoint, okay, to clarify that sentence. Run it in debug mode. Guys, debugging is solution for all problems. Whether understanding problem, whether bug is there, whether fixing you need, whether more clarification required, debugging is the best thing for everything. So put a breakpoint where you are starting. Then go slowly, step by step. So I put a breakpoint in line number 5 where my object is being created. Now you can see your compiler came. So if you do this practice 1 month initially, then you will be master. If somewhere programming mistake is there, you will feel like somebody else wrote your signature, right? That is the way. If you go through debugging, you will feel like I'm standing there only. I am the compiler, right? Like that you will feel one day. 1 month, 2 months you do this practice, you will feel like that. So if anywhere some logical, syntactical, any mistake is there, you will feel like somebody else wrote your signature. How you are quickly catching, hey, it's not my signature, somebody else wrote it. Same way, you will say, hey, there is something wrong, man, here. Let me go through in detail, let me debug, something wrong. Like that you will feel it, okay? So that, till that time you have to debug. As long as you are not feeling that you are the compiler, right? F11, why F11 guys? Why not F10? What we understood last class.
We have to go.
F10 means go to next line. है ना? Current line compilation and next line jumping. We don't want that. Next line is line number 7, right? We don't want to jump to line number 7. We want to go to the definition where exactly that main class definition is there, and we'll see where it is going. F11. Actually, there is a 35 seconds time limit in a single point. So, since I'm explaining you already, That's why that 35 seconds is over. So let's again run it. That means when you come to a point in a single point, you can be there up to 35 seconds. That is the process of debugging basically. So within 35 seconds, you just click further where you want to go. So I clicked F11, it came to line number 13. Now, why it didn't come to line number 9 or 10 or 11 or 12 or 18? Why it came to line number 13? By this, what you understood? When object is being created, that means line number 5, always it calls the what? Constructor. Okay, always it calls the constructor. Now inside constructor, what you are writing, ultimately it will do that automatically. That means manually you are not calling constructor, guys. Automatically it is calling when the object will be created. Now it will ask, hey, enter the employee ID. I said my employee ID is, let's say, 750. Press enter. Then it came here. Now you got that value, 750. As of now, it was nothing. But now I got 750. Company name is globally for everybody, ABC Limited. Alright. Now let's go outside this and then call this. Function will not be called automatically. Constructor will be called automatically when object will be created. That's why function means you have to call explicitly. Line number 7. Explicitly means manually. Okay. So I am calling now this. When it will come here, it will say, dear, company name I got ABC Limited. If you want to display company name, absolutely fine. If you want to display employee ID also, then make some code changes here. Line number 20. Now help me. Suppose I want to display both of them, for example. Right? Both of them. Employee ID as well as company name. So what should I do? The name of company is curly bracket 0 and employee ID, EMP ID of the person is curly bracket 1. How many data? That many curly bracket 0, curly bracket 1, curly bracket 2, that is called placeholder, comma, EMP ID. Make sense, guys? Read this line. Let me know if you get any confusion here. So the sentence will be like this. The name of company is, suddenly when curly bracket 0 came, it will jump to outside and say, hey, who is there in the 0th position? Now company name is saying, I am in the 0 position. Then company name will come and sit here. Then it will go on sentence displaying. Now 1 came, curly bracket 1. Not simply 1. If you write simply 1, what will happen? Any idea?
It will print 1.
It will print 1.
No, true error.
Yeah, no, not error, but it will print 1. Okay, number 1. But we don't want number 1. We want to say position number 1. Right? So that is the difference between number 1 and position number 1. So I want to say, hey, this is position number 1. That means whoever is the one position, pick it and fill it. That means employee ID will come and fill this gap. That means full sentence will be the name of the company is ABC Limited and employee ID of the person is whatever you might have entered. 750 means 750. Okay. So you understood full flow. Now you remove the breakpoint. No need to have the breakpoint. Once you understood, no need to have the breakpoint. Now you test one more round after removing breakpoint, whether overall output, what we are expecting, it is giving or not. Employee ID, it is asking. Why? Because employee ID is not global. It is local, different for everybody. So I said, hey, my employee ID is 75. Then it says, good, your company name is ABC Limited and your personal employee ID is 75. So that is what we expect. Any question mark as of now in this line number 20? I don't think anything extra I did. Just one constructor, line number 13. And here I added one more thing called employee ID.
Yeah, just one question.
Yeah.
You said the static strings can be displayed by using placeholders. So why are we using the power brackets here?
Curly bracket, that is the syntax basically to differentiate between number or position number. Imagine I will say 0, this is number. but curly
No, but
bracket
the
0 means position number.
company name is a private variable, right?
Doesn't matter. Everything will be accessible inside this curly bracket. I mean, as long as this line number 10 ending in line number 22, this is called inside class, right? Inside class. Class starts at line number 10, ends at line number 22. So inside class, everything accessible. Private, public, protected, internal, static, non-static, everything, because it is inside now. For example, which is accessible outside, like if you go to static, if you understand correctly, imagine your static is available here and non-static is available here, right? Can I say this X is global? And can I say this Y is local? Is it? Right? Y is inside object. X is outside object. That means it's static, means global. Acha. X is accessible to all outsiders because it's global. So object number 1 also can access that one, which is your object. That means if it is inside class, regardless it is static, it is non-static, it is private, it is public, it will definitely accessible. Because definition of private is, because your problem was with private, right? If you see, definition of the private is only should be accessible inside the class, should not get accessible outside the class. That means same thing if I will do outside the class, here somewhere, it will say no, you cannot. Employee ID, it will say no, you cannot. Check it out. EMP ID. If you copy paste also, it will say no, you cannot, it is private. But if you do other one, which one? Company name, which is public. Oh, this is also private, I have defined. Suppose you will take something else, for example, public string city name equal to, let's say, Delhi, for example. So this city name you can access here easily, no problem. Try just to answer your question. So console.writeLine, good question in fact. So console.writeLine, I will say this. In other hand, I will say console.writeLine other one means city. Check it out, what is happening there. It will say city you can access, no problem, because that is public. Employee ID you cannot access because it's private. But inside the class, whatever you do doesn't matter. Imagine I'm displaying private called employee ID, public called city, absolutely welcome, no problem. Is that clear? So here you can extend further, and city is curly bracket 2 and extremely, and you have to write. So what I will do, I will just break this into 2 lines like this. Okay, possible you can break it this way also. So here I will say comma what city name. Any confusion? Whether public, whether private, whether static, inside the class doesn't matter. Only you have to think when it is outside the class, right? Acha, if you are understanding correctly all these concepts from last 2 classes what we are discussing, I will ask a question, try to answer it. Employee ID, understandable, because it's private, it will not give me permission, so I will comment this line. Okay, security didn't allow because it's private, right? Now my question is, I want to access this guy's ABC Limited directly. This is public, suppose. Imagine this is public. That means easily this should be accessed outside now, here. Now who can help me to display directly like this? Console.writeLine, suppose I want to display here. Like obj city is there now. I want to display obj dot something or whatever here in this bracket. I want to display this company name. Anybody can help me?
Class name dot.
Yeah, my class dot that name, sir.
Absolutely possible, but with class name, है ना? Possible, but with class name. What is that? Company name. So private means not at all possible. Public with non-static means possible with object name. Public with static means possible with class name. All three variations clear? How to access outside the class. Inside the class, no restriction, guys. Totally forget about any problem. All are welcome. Static, non-static, public, private, protected, internal. In fact, protected and internal I have not told you yet. We will learn it later. But anything absolutely welcome inside the class. It is like in Hindi we say ghar ki kheti. By your study room, your table, you can sit anytime. But a public person who is outside, he cannot sit. Na? But the moment you make it static, that is no more your study table. That is public study table. As if that is kept in the national highway or somewhere in the bus stop or somewhere in the airport. So that table can be used by everybody because that is no more secure. It is a global. So to use that global, we follow the syntax called class name dot variable name. But for object-oriented concepts or object-oriented variable, line number 12 and 13, you have to understand private means private, it cannot be accessed outside. Public means public, it can be easily accessed outside with the help of object. So these two variables are object-oriented variables, but this is global variable. Slowly we are proceeding one by one. Still two things are there. Protected, internal. So that we will learn little later. Yeah, any question you are asking?
The default is private?
Default is private, absolutely. If I will write here also private, it will behave same as not writing anything. Okay? So it is private by default. Elements of the class, private by default. But class itself, internal by default. If I will not write anything, line number 9 I am talking about, don't confuse. Class itself is internal if I am not writing anything. But you will ask me, sir, what is internal? Right? We will learn it later. Just default thing came, that's why I am just telling you. But we will learn what is internal little later. So class itself is internal if you are not writing anything by default. But elements of the class is by default private if you don't mention anything. Okay, so now let's go to our constructor little in depth. So currently you understood there is something called constructor which is used for storing the data during object creation. Now did you justify this definition, guys? Used for initializing the data, but it will be automatically called when object will be created. Okay, now let's little proceed more about the constructor. Guys, there are two types of constructor. I will write types of constructor. Those who have little experience, guys, because in the introduction class I have seen few people are already having 1 to 2 years experience or 5 years experience. Please bear it if you know all these concepts, because I assume that whole batch starting from the beginning. So I will little go in depth every topic. So please bear me if you already know these concepts. But yeah, observe also, don't take it that easily that I know everything. Up to 1 month I will not attend the class, but you will miss many things. So attend the class, but if you know something already I am explaining, please bear me. Okay. So types of constructor. There are two types of constructor. One is default constructor, because I have seen some people in other batch, not in your batch I'm talking, some people in other batch, in past batches have seen they will take it very easily because 6 months experience or 1 year experience, they might have heard somewhere there is constructor, there is destructor, there is something called enum. They will say that, hey, these are all repeated topics. Who is attending? Let's attend directly after 1 month or after 15 days. When they will attend, till then these freshers, those who just pass out, they will be performing better than them. I have seen that practical experience. So don't be overconfident. If you're confident, it's good, but don't be overconfident. You must attend the class. If something already known, it's okay. Participate in the discussion, right? Your visibility will be improved better. So default constructor, second is parameterized constructor. Parameterized constructor. Let me make you understand what is this parameterized constructor, what is default constructor. Default constructor, the one which we wrote now currently, line number 14, this is also called default constructor. Default constructor means the moment object created, na, by default it will be called. That's why that name is default constructor. By default it will be called. We saw now just now 5 minutes back, we put a breakpoint here, then we press F11, it came here. That means by default only. Nobody forced him to come, automatically it came. That's why we say it as default constructor. But there are some constructor only when you want to send a parameter. Parameter means input value. Just like this. Hey, I want to send company name as KKK Limited. Hey, I want to send employee ID as 78. I want to send from the outside class, and that class should take my data only, and that data should be initialized to this data members. Sometimes we do that. When we do that, now you created 3 objects. Each object you want to pass different data. But if you give here, it will be same data. That's why sometimes what we do, when we are creating the object, in that object line itself, we need to pass some data. My employee ID is 78. My company name is KKK Limited. Who are you to decide ABC Limited? Is it guaranteed that everybody is into ABC Limited? If that is the case, then default constructor is not going to help. It will say, by whatever default you mentioned here, that will be taken automatically. But my case is now little different. Not even company common for everybody. I want to take everybody's company different and everybody's employee ID also different. See the variations. First was everybody's company as well as employee ID same. Then no need for constructor at all. No need for constructor at all. Directly give employee ID 100 over everybody's company name, everybody's employee ID, everybody's city. This feels like little wrong in the employee ID case. City and company name makes sense, but employee ID, everybody's employee ID 100. So we thought about default constructor key. At least this will help me to get the employee ID. Now I am thinking not only employee ID different, I want to pass every object while creating the object itself, their data, their city, their company name, their employee ID, I want to pass from here itself. So this class should not do anything from its own. It should not do anything from its own except declaring the variables. Except declaring the variables. So how to do that? Now it is showing error. Na? Why? It is saying, array, you are passing the data, but your constructor doesn't catch the data. If you are throwing a ball, I am catching the ball, right? So this guy is sending the data, but that guy is not catching that data anywhere. So to catch that data, what you are passing from here, you need a parameterized constructor. Your default constructor cannot catch those data. So how to do? Public my class, open bracket, close bracket. Here you have to mention in the same sequence. Which sequence? Now first I am passing company name, second I am passing employee ID. If necessary, you can pass city also like this. You know, like my city is Bangalore. Your city may be Delhi. My city is Bangalore. I want to pass this. So what I will do, instead of disturbing this existing line, I will put a separate line here. Okay, I will not disturb that. I will delete this because you should know both the variety. Na? One variety is if you don't want to pass anything from here, everything is decided by target class. But second category is no, I want to pass the data from here, and that data I want to keep it inside object number 1, obj1. Is it possible? Okay, let's see. obj1, obj1, obj1 everywhere. As of now, it is showing error because I have not yet collected this. So company name, employee ID, city name. So these are the sequence. So here I will say company name, let's say C name, employee ID, let's say EID, city name, let's say C name. Oh, city name is also same. So I will say city name. Okay, both names should not be same, no? So one is C name, one is CT name. Okay. Now it will not show error here. It will say, okay, I got the constructor who will catch my data. So default constructor will be called here, line number 5, allocating all memory of the class to random access memory using default constructor. And here it will be using, this will call parameterized constructor. So why, how, when, all these things you got clarity. Now let's put a breakpoint and then come here. So definitely whatever you are passing, KKK Limited, 78, Bangalore, all those things you will come and sit here directly. Now what is next duty? Naki, as long as I am not giving this data to these elements, they will still have Delhi only, ABC Limited only, right? So what I want to do? I want to do like this. I will say, hey, company name equal to C name, employee ID equal to EID, because just now I collected EID. Similarly, city equal to city name. I am not hurry, very slowly, steadily I am going. Any question mark, raise the hand. Okay, so it will catch from here. In fact, let me debug one round. If you have small question mark also, automatically it will be clarified. So put a breakpoint here, line number 8. Put a breakpoint here, line number 8. Now you go and debug it. You will see always when I will do some solution, I will debug one round. Why? Because when I explain the concept, write the coding, chance either 80-90% you will get clarity, but still 5-10% maybe question mark. So that will be clear here now. F11. Why? Because F11 is for going to the target location. Can you see? First it gave me Delhi only. Then it came down. Delhi, why? Because it's the last line of this row. So it directly came to here because I have not put a breakpoint in line number 11. If you put a breakpoint, then it will show you everything one by one. That means it might have already given ABC Limited. It might have already given Delhi. Now it came here. It came here means what? It came to constructor. So in constructor, check it out. C name, KKK Limited. Employee ID, 78. City name, Bangalore. Now you are providing those collected data to your respective variables. That means previously it was ABC Limited, Delhi, etc. Now it become your KKK Limited, Bangalore, employee ID is this, and so on. Now proceed further. F10, F10, F10. F11 means target location. F10 means current line, execute and jump to next line. Okay. So 5 minutes more I will take. We will close it. Though we are getting little late. So obj1.welcome, right? F11. It came here. Now check it out. That ABC Limited is applicable, or my, explicitly passed data is applicable. So when parameterized constructor is going to overwrite the data, then overwritten data is applicable always. That means scope will go always to the parameterized constructor, even though if you have default constructor. Is that clear now? What is default constructor? What is parameterized constructor? So this is called default constructor. Default constructor. This is called parameterized constructor. Any question, guys, before we close for the day?
Hi, sir. Sir,